When you think of a popular song mashup, you're probably thinking of something found on the internet. This may lead you to think of a few dozen MP3s that you ripped off YouTube that have been sitting in your iTunes library collecting dust over the past few years. You may think of an entire mashup album by the likes of Girl Talk, or you might even think of early mashups from the 1990s distributed on handmade cassettes. But you probably aren't thinking of this.
Alright.
If you know the song You Don't Bring Me Flowers by Neil Diamond and Barbra Streisand, you probably don't know it started out as just that, an unauthorized mashup. Our story today begins not with an artist, songwriter, or music producer, but with TV writer and producer Norman Lear, mastermind behind the 1970s sitcoms All in the Family, Sanford and Son, The Jeffersons, and Good Times. In 1976, Lear was preparing to shoot a pilot for a new series titled All That Glitters, a soap opera parody that takes place in an alternate reality where women were the primary breadwinners and men were homemakers. It's some really twisted stuff, I know. In typical Hollywood story fashion, Lear ran into singer-songwriter Neil Diamond at a dinner party. After working as a songwriter with varying success in the 1960s, by 1976 Diamond was a major pop star and household name. Diamond offered to write a theme for Lear's new show, and Lear agreed, asking Diamond to work with husband and wife songwriting duo Alan and Marilyn Bergman. Diamond suggested writing a torch song, a sentimental love song in which the singer laments a lost or unrequited love. Based on the show's theme of reversing the sexes, they came up with an idea for a song called You Don't Bring Me Flowers, in which a man laments that his wife no longer brings him flowers, a gift usually given by men to women instead of the other way around. The trio presented their 45-second theme to Lear, who liked the song, but when Lear revealed that he'd need the group to sign over the copyright to him for it to be used as the show's theme, Diamond balked and the deal was off. The Bergmans considered the song a scrap, so they were surprised to hear from Diamond 6 months later that he was performing the song during his concerts and that his fans loved it. He had been performing their 45-second version, adding in an instrumental bridge, and then performing the same 45 seconds again. The trio then decided to sit down and flesh it out into a full 3.5-minute song. Diamond recorded this full composition and included it on his November 1977 album, I'm Glad You're Here With Me Tonight.
You don't bring me flowers.
Enter Barbra Streisand. After a career in Broadway, Streisand dominated both the radio and the box office and was one of America's biggest superstars by 1977. After hearing You Don't Bring Me Flowers off Diamond's album, Streisand called the Bergmans and let them know she loved it and was going to record it too. Her cover was included in her 1978 album Songbird. She recorded the song in the same key and with the same arranger, so their versions sounded pretty similar.
You don't bring me flowers.
Unlike today, when studio albums are expected to almost if not entirely be made up of new compositions, covers were common and accepted on pop albums in the 1970s. Diamond's album I'm Glad You're Here With Me Tonight included 2 covers, while Streisand's Songbird album contained 5. Yes, that really is the back cover of that album. Both stars released similar versions of the same song on their albums, but neither recording was released as a single. This should be the end of the story, but thanks to one radio program director, the songs would become a huge hit. Together. In the fall of 1977, Louisville AM radio programmer Gary Guthrie heard Diamond's recording of You Don't Bring Me Flowers at a friend's house and noticed the emotional response his wife Becky had to it. But he felt that something was missing. Fast forward to the spring of 1978 and the release of Streisand's Songbird album. Guthrie heard the cover and it immediately occurred to him that it should be a duet. He decided to try to attempt a mix of the 2 songs himself as a sort of going-away present to Becky, with whom he was getting an amicable divorce. After a few attempts and test runs on late-night radio, he gave his mashup to the DJ at his station to play on the air during the day, and it received an immediate response. A record store in Elizabethtown, Kentucky called asking about the record, claiming a group of Dolly Parton lookalikes came in looking to buy a copy. And that was just the start of the deluge. Listeners loved the song and requested it on the radio, propelling it into heavy rotation on the station. In turn, this caused more record buyers to try to find the song in local record shops, prompting even more calls to the station from frustrated shopkeepers who could not convince their patrons that a song played daily on the radio was not available for purchase. Guthrie found the situation amusing until he started getting furious calls from listeners who demanded to know why he owned the only copy of what they thought was an actual duet. But the frenzy over this fabled record was far from local. After the success of Guthrie's mashup in Louisville, radio stations in Chicago, Detroit, and Wichita all created their own unauthorized mixes to play on the air as well. The story was even picked up in the record industry trade papers. In a time before the internet, this was just about as viral as you could get. All the while, Diamond and Streisand were oblivious to the whole thing. With all the mashup success, Guthrie used his contacts to send it to Bruce Lundvall, the president of Columbia Records, which had both Diamond and Streisand under contract. He loved it and felt that an official duet recording was in order. He immediately convinced Diamond, but had to persuade Streisand, who was wary of recording her first duet with another superstar. Coincidentally, Diamond and Streisand both had sung together already, although they may not have realized it. 20 years earlier, at Erasmus Hall High School in Brooklyn, both were members of the school's 100-person choir. But back to 1978. A few weeks after the call from Lundvall, the duet Guthrie imagined was freshly recorded by Diamond and Streisand themselves. After a few hours with just a piano, a microphone, and some great outfits, the two had the vocals in the bag. Strings were added under the guidance of producer Bob Gaudio, also known for his work as a keyboardist and backing vocalist for the Four Seasons. Neil Diamond, for all his greatness, has pretty much always been unabashedly cheesy in both his writing and performance. He is a born entertainer, sure, but with that territory comes walking around with a sparkly jacket on 24/7. And while the delivery of this song feels pretty melodramatic, its strongest point is actually the restraint in its songwriting. Many breakup songs center around a catastrophic event, such as infidelity, but You Don't Bring Me Flowers isn't about a couple having a big, bad event. It's about a couple lacking in the little, nice events.
You couldn't wait to love me.
The song's earnestness about having sex without any intimacy seems pretty ahead of its time, too. Musically, the song is very 70s, but it definitely succeeds in its stylings as an old Torch song. There's a great degree of corniness here, but as we discussed on the episode on Katy Perry's Teenage Dream, a concerted and charismatic delivery can help temper that. After much anticipation, the official duet was finally released in October of 1978. It received positive reviews from the critics and public, with Billboard noting that the lush interplay of vocals brings commanding depth and appeal to the ballad. After a number 48 debut, the song took only 6 weeks to climb to the summit of the Hot 100, marking the third #1 hit for both Diamond and Streisand. The song spent 2 non-consecutive weeks at the top, interrupted by Chic's Le Freak for 1 week. The timing was just right on this breakup ballad. The divorce rate hit an all-time high of 5.3 per capita in 1979, a number that was matched in 1981 but never beaten. With many baby boomers getting out of their first marriages in the late 1970s, it seemed like a whole generation was falling out of love at the exact same time. So it's no wonder that the public could relate to the song, which had been created out of Guthrie's divorce in the first place. And Guthrie was enjoying the success too. Although he had begrudgingly signed away his royalty rights to the song, he did receive a lot of media attention. People magazine, the LA Times, Good Morning America, Merv Griffin, Casey Kasem, and even international publications all reached out to him for an interview. Kasem even played Guthrie's original mashup version on his weekly American Top 40 program.
Program director Gary Guthrie's original version of You Don't Bring Me Flowers by Barbra Streisand and Neil Diamond, in place of the actual single released by Barbra and Neil. #1 in the USA this week, You Don't Bring Me Flowers.
After the song went #1, Streisand sent him a telegram thanking him, and Diamond, of course, sent him flowers. The song was nominated for Record of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Performance by a Duo or Group at the 1980 Grammys, but lost to 2 different Doobie Brothers songs. Can't knock them, they were having a hell of a year. Despite their losses, Diamond and Streisand stole the show when they closed the ceremony by walking out from opposite ends of the stage unannounced and performing the song to uproarious applause.
Used to be so natural. Talk about forever.
Despite being a smash hit and major milestone for both artists, this record has mostly been forgotten by the general public. When you think of Neil Diamond, you probably think of Sweet Caroline. When you think of Barbra Streisand, you probably think of The Way We Were.
Of the way we were.
When you have a track record as great as these two do, even a huge #1 hit can kind of get lost in time. If nothing else, the song serves as a halfway marker in two artists' incredible careers. Both were about 15 good years in and had 15 more good to come. Most mentions of the song 10 plus years after its release are decidedly less positive than those from 1978. Rolling Stone has called it Diamond's schmaltziest, while the New York Times called it mawkish melodrama. Streisand's boyfriend at the time, John Peters, aimed to produce a film based around the song starring both Diamond and Streisand, though it never came to fruition, presumably because Diamond's focus shifted to starring in a remake of the 1927 film The Jazz Singer, which went on to receive horrible reviews. Ultimately, what may be the song's biggest legacy is that it pioneered the high-profile celebrity duet. While there had been plenty of duets in the past, most were from duos who consistently recorded and performed as an act, two solo singers who recorded an entire album together, or a superstar receiving help from a relative unknown. While there had certainly been superstar pairings before, You Don't Bring Me Flowers no doubt kicked off the idea of the event duet single, as the following 5 years saw the release of such songs as Islands in the Stream, Endless Love, Ebony and Ivory, and Stop Dragging My Heart Around, just to name a few. Gary Guthrie, creator of the original mashup, eventually sued for royalties, but the suit was settled out of court, and he went on to lead a successful career in radio. Oh, and if you were wondering about that gender-swapping Norman Lear show, All That Glitters, it was panned by both audiences and critics, who praised its outre premise but hated its writing. The show was canceled after just 13 weeks on the air. The Bergmans later mused that if the song had been attached to the show, it likely would not have had the success that it did. Before I knew the backstory of this song, what struck me as strange about it was Diamond's lament that Streisand doesn't bring him flowers anymore. It's not like no woman has ever given a man flowers, but it still seemed a bit out of the ordinary. Knowing that the line was almost written to be a punchline about the reverse gender roles of the TV show, but then was just played straight, as an extra element of strangeness to this song. I would not disagree with the general consensus that this song is pretty corny, but I still think that Diamond and Streisand have a lot of chemistry. The song is truly an artifact of the late 70s, but the pair's performance is basically what stops me from immediately hitting skip on this song. Overall, I'm pretty neutral about the song. I don't love it, I don't hate it, but I'll be damned if the story of how it got here isn't one of the most interesting I've come across.